Welcome to the Conflict and War Studies channel. My name is Ufuk Sayın. I am the moderator for today's program. Today, we will talk about when the war will end with retired Brigadier General Ufuk Uras. Welcome, General.
Thank you, Colonel.
General, when we take a look at the world, everyone, the leaders of countries, private companies, or the man at the street, everyone wants to know when the war will end or how the war will end. In your opinion, what are the main factors that affect the timeline of the war?
It is a very difficult question. Nobody knows when the war will end, how the war will end, but we will try, or we can try to guess how it may end. There are many factors that may affect the timeline of the war, but in my opinion, there are some strategic, political, economic, and military factors that we can speak about. First of all, I have to say that the US and Israel haven't reached their objectives. When I listen to the briefings given by the Minister of Defense of US, they are talking about the numbers, about the percentages that they have inflicted casualties, damage to the Iran. But this doesn't mean that they are winning the war. Winning of a war is directly linked to the attainment of the military objectives and the political objectives, and thereby the planned end state. So the US and Israel are not progressing towards the achievement of their objectives. Remember, when the war started, they aimed to change the regime. One of their objectives was to end Iran's nuclear capacity, nuclear program. Another objective was the degradation of Iran's ballistic missiles and to push Iran for an agreement that Iran will not have ballistic missiles that could target Israel. Another objective was that Iran would not be able to support different armed groups in the Middle East. So with the analysis of this, we see that neither the US nor Israel are able to achieve their objectives until now. So they have revised their plans, they have shifted their operations on different targets, and they have shifted their priorities. When we look at today, both Trump and Netanyahu wants to have a decisive and quick victory because they have known that they won't be able to sustain this war for a long period of time. They are facing logistic problems, ammunition problem. There's a growing reaction from their public. There's a growing reaction from the world. With the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, there is a serious economic crisis. There's a serious global economic crisis. So politically, they want to end the war as early as possible, but they don't have much options. They inflicted damage and casualties to Iran, but they didn't break the will of fight of Iranian people, Iranian administration, and Iranian armed forces. So it didn't work. Iran's geography is a large geography. There are too many mountains surrounding Iran, so that they cannot carry out a ground operation. If they carry out a land operation, it will be very costly. But on the other side, US and Israel aggression led Iran to close the Strait of Hormuz, and which resulted in a very big economic crisis because oil prices now are above $100 per barrel, and maybe in the near future it may rise up to $200 per barrel. We may not feel the effect of this situation now, but in the coming months, as individuals, companies, or states will really feel the pain very severely. The economic crisis has to be resolved, and that also is an important pressure factor on Trump and Netanyahu. And nowadays they are talking about an operation to establish their control on the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe we can talk about this later. And militarily, I mean, they are not able to defeat totally the Iranian military. They don't have much strategic options. They are trying to develop a new strategy, but any strategy they are trying to develop doesn't work. This is the situation.
Okay, here I have a question about logistic stocks, especially for missiles, for both sides, the Israel and the USA, and the other side, Iran. What about the stocks of missiles, and how will it affect the war?
First of all, US and Israel are facing serious air defense supply problem for the Patriots. US has brought missiles from South Korea, from Asia Pacific region. They brought missiles from Europe. US cannot produce mass amount of missiles. There are raw material problems, and the production speed in the United States is very low. They are trying to increase the speed of production, but that will not be sufficient to meet the demand. Israel reportedly is now asking United States for additional Patriot missiles. For the air operations, I think they can sustain the air operations. According to many analysts, US and Israel may be able to continue their air operations for some time. For the Iranian side, there is no clear number of the missiles they had in their inventory. According to some reports, they had 2,500 before the war, but some reports say they have around 8,000 or 10,000 ballistic missiles in their inventory. So it's a big difference, and it's a big gap between the two estimates. But I think they are still able to fire missiles. They are able to manufacture in the mountains, underground compounds. Yes, US and Israel are targeting their industrial complexes in the cities, but Iran, has a large area, large territory, and the eastern part of Iran is not the target for the US and Israel operations. They have concentrated their air operations to the western and southern parts of Iran, so they may be manufacturing missiles in the eastern part of Iran.
If you remember on the previous program, we talked about the scenarios for the future of the war. And the first scenario is Trump declares the self-victory and walks away. The second one is ground operation, and nowadays we heard that the US is preparing 5,000 soldiers for the ground operation. The third one is Iran's complete destruction and surrender. The last scenario is the nuclear attack, nuclear war. I want to talk to each scenario with you. Can you please give us more information for each scenario, and which one is the most likely one in your opinion among the scenarios?
The first scenario is Trump wanted to end the war, but I think he lost the window of opportunity. He could have declared victory and end the war last week, but now because he targeted the Hark Island, now he's bringing additional forces to the region. I think it is late now for him to declare a victory at this point. For the second option scenario, land operations. Initially, they wanted to carry out a land operation using terrorist groups like the extension of PKK and ISIL inside Iran, maybe some armed groups in the Balochistan region of Iran. But they were not able to convince some groups like Barzani, Talabani. They were rejected by Barzani and Talabani. And I think they have understood that it won't be possible for them to carry out a large ground operation with these groups inside Iran. They may try it. I think they are still arming those groups, and maybe they will. Even the war ends, I think Israel wants to use these groups inside Iran, but I don't think that these groups will be able to separate a region in Iran. Iran has large military, ground forces, security forces, paramilitary forces. Iran can defeat those groups inside Iran. I don't think that these forces will be able to separate any region. Concerning the other part of the region, the Strait of Hormuz, it is now controlled by Iran, and the United States want to gain the control of the strait, and this is one of the priorities as far as we can see now. For this reason, they deployed some marine forces from South Korea and also maybe from Japan to the region. The total forces, as you have mentioned, is about 5,000. But amphibious landing or air assault operations are the most risky operations, and
Yes, it is the most difficult one.
the most difficult one, and those operations usually end with high number of casualties. So before such operations are launched, they need to establish some conditions in the Strait of Hormuz, like clearing of mines if there are, destroying Iran's anti-ship missiles, and eliminating Iran's drones. Iran has ground forces, land forces, and they are well fortified. Which
So,
points
according to this information, is it enough 5,000 soldiers for the ground operation, land operation?
I don't
I
think will
think,
be enough. It's not.
yeah,
Iran has
I
a
agree.
large armed force, army, and
Yeah,
the shores of the
big army.
strait.
It has a big army.
Yes, the shores of the strait. Even U.S. has the air supremacy, because Iran forces are in fortified positions. They prepared this region maybe for many years. So it won't be possible for the United States to capture this terrain, to hold the terrain, even if they are able to at least establish a beachhead. They might be targeted by the Iranian forces. So it is a very difficult and a very risky operation. Maybe Trump deployed these forces just to pressure Iran for a ceasefire. This may also be
Mhm.
something behind this movement. But if they may try to use forces. On the other side, Trump made a call for U.S. allies like Japan, South Korea, or France, United Kingdom to send their ships to the region so that they together will launch a naval operation first to establish a control in the Strait of Hormuz. But the Europeans seem like they rejected this. I don't know what is the response from Japan and South Korea. I don't think that they will send their ships because it is also a very risky operation. So the third scenario, sorry, was about using and continuing air bombardment and destroying Iran further and push Iran for a ceasefire. Iran is a resilient nation. We have seen it. Iran is a proud nation. They have resources. Geography favors them. They have prepared armed forces. and they will not give up from the fight. It won't be possible to break their will to fight in a short time by air operations, I guess. And the sustainability of the air operations may not take a year. Maybe they can only sustain this operation for a couple of months more. But there are other priorities of the United States, China, Russia. The priority of the United States is Indo-Pacific region and the Western Hemisphere. If US gets stuck in the region for months, for a year or more, then this will be a deviation for United States from their security objectives in other parts of the world. So they want to end the war, and there is no promising strategic option. The last one was about the nuclear issue. Some commentators say that the United States will never use a nuclear weapon against Iran, but Israel may use. If Israel uses, it will be also a suicide, I think, for Israel. We don't know whether Iran has developed a nuclear weapon. They have an enriched uranium. Last year, I remember during the 12-day war, Pakistan declared that if Israel attacks Iran with a nuclear weapon, Pakistan will respond to Israel in the similar way. Russia
At
and
this
China.
If the Israel uses nuclear missiles, does the USA permit that or support that? Or maybe the USA uses nuclear missiles. Is it
As I
another
said,
thing?
as I said, US will not use, and I don't think that US will use. And for Israel, if Israel decides to do it, I think they do it without any consultation with the United States.
Wow.
The United States will never favor, I guess, any use of nuclear weapon because it may trigger a world war. If a nuclear weapon is used, then it is a very different condition and situation. This may end up with maybe world war. So I think they may have some. I mean, Israel or Netanyahu himself may have such an intention, but this will be, say, suicide for Israel. Israel is a little country. They have a small population, and in such a situation, I think this will be the end of Israel in different means, in different ways.
According to the media reports, Iran is rejecting ceasefire negotiations. Why does Iran reject these proposals, and what are the conditions for Iran to come to table to talk on a ceasefire or direct peace?
As you know, Iran was cheated during the negotiations just before the war. They were talking the conditions for a nuclear agreement, but before the negotiations ended, Iran was attacked by Israel and the United States. Because of this, Iran does not trust to the United States and Israel.
Yeah.
And secondly, I think Iran is still intact. The Iranian political administration, Iranian military, and they still have capabilities. You know, they can strike Israel, they can strike US bases in the region. So they are militarily not at such a weak point to accept a negotiation. And they have some conditions. I mean, they are not completely closed for negotiations, but they have some conditions. And the first condition is that security guarantees that the United States would never attack Iran again. And for this, they want the US withdraw its military bases from Middle East. They want also an official apology from the United States for the assassination of their supreme leader Khamenei. Economically, they want all the sanctions be lifted and immediately return of the frozen assets, frozen Iranian assets in Europe and in the US maybe. They also want Israel withdraw from Gaza, from Lebanon, from Syria. These are the conditions.
Finally, I want to talk the position of some countries for ceasefire and peace. I mean, the position of China, Russia, European countries, Turkey, and the regional countries.
As you know, China and Russia supported Iran and are still supporting Iran militarily, especially they provide intelligence support. China has provided material support, components of missiles maybe, maybe also components of some drones. For the peace negotiations and for ceasefire negotiations, China made some statements, and China wants an immediate ceasefire. The reason why China wants it because China imports oil mostly from Iran, so they need Iranian oil. This is why China wants, I think, an immediate and quick resolution to the problem.
Here,
For the
maybe the USA wants to cut these oil sources, right?
Yes, this, I mean, one of the objectives of the United States was to deny China access to the resources of the Middle East, but it hasn't been possible. I mean, they wanted to do it by changing the regime and by establishing a pro-American regime in Iran. It didn't happen. So for the Russia is very happy with the result because the United States and Europe eased the sanctions which were imposed on Russia during the Ukraine war. Now Russia is selling oil to Europeans. Can you imagine? Europeans imposed sanctions on Russia
Yes.
because of the war in Ukraine, but now Europeans are buying Russian oil. So Russia is making profit. I think this situation really favors Russia. But I don't think that they will want this conflict to continue. For regional countries, they definitely want an immediate peace because they suffered from this. Turkey offers negotiations and wants to play a mediator role in the negotiations. So we don't know when the peace will come. It is really difficult. United States and Israel are not able to develop an exit strategy. If they operate in the Strait of Hormuz, it will be very costly, as we spoke. Today, Israel made a statement that they want to end the war within 3 weeks. They believe that they will reach their objectives in 3 weeks. I don't think so. I think now they are reaching the culmination point.
All right. This is the end of our program today. General, do you want to add something?
I think there is a need for an urgent peace. The United States and Israel are the aggressors. They should stop their operations unconditionally. They caused a serious damage and they created a global crisis, and the rest of the world are paying the price for this crisis, which is created by the United States and Israel. they should end their aggression unconditionally.
Thank you, General, for sharing your thoughts.
It's my pleasure.
As Conflict and War Studies channel, we will be tracking the worldwide developments. Thank you for watching our videos and hope to see you on our new videos.